Britain is building its most expensive power station ever, and China owns a third of it. From sky-high costs to political controversy, this nuclear project could shape the UK's energy future for decades. So, what's really going on at Hinkley Point C, and why does it matter to you? Stick around to see what's inside, why it's so delayed, and whether this bet will actually pay off. Before we go full reactor mode on Hinkley Point C, hit subscribe for more high voltage updates on the world's biggest infrastructure projects. Nuclear power is not new for the UK. In fact, it has been around since the 1950s. Back then, Britain was one of the first countries in the world to build commercial nuclear power stations. For a while, things were going great. But over the years, the excitement faded because people started to worry about safety and the environmental effects. This is why most of those older stations are shutting down one by one these days. Some already have. That's a big deal because nuclear still supplies about 15% of the UK's electricity. And if all those plants disappear with nothing new to replace them, the lights won't stay on forever. That's why it became crucial to build Hinkley Point C. It is being built in Somerset, right by the sea, on the same site where two older plants, Hinkley Point A and B, used to run. A is already gone. B is almost done. But C is the big one. The first brand new nuclear station in the UK in more than 20 years. That alone is a headline. And this is not some small side project either. Hinkley Point C is designed to be powerful enough to supply electricity to 6 million homes. That's about 7% of the UK's total electricity needs. But how can one plant produce that much energy? Well, the plant will use two giant reactors called EPRs, which stand for European Pressured Reactors. These are newer, updated designs made to run with higher efficiency and tighter safety standards. Each reactor will generate 1,630 megawatts, which is quite a lot. Put the two together and Hinkley Point C will be one of the most powerful nuclear stations in Europe, at least on paper. Given its huge size, this power plant will use 3 million tonnes of concrete, which is more than the entire London Olympic Park. The cooling tunnels stretch over 3 miles under the seabed. And the main reactor dome is so massive, it needs to be lifted by Big Carl, which is one of the biggest cranes on Earth. Plus, once operational, Hinkley will prevent 9 million tonnes of carbon dioxide emissions every year. This is like taking 4 million cars off the road. But despite all this scale and ambition, this one power station alone won't meet rising demand. That's why eyes are already on the next big project, Sizewell C. Sizewell C is another nuclear plant which is being built in Suffolk, using the same EPR design as Hinkley C. Its construction started in July 2024 and hopes to be up and running sometime in the 2030s. But who is behind these megaprojects? Mainly EDF Energy, the UK arm of France's state-owned EDF. China General Nuclear, CGN, is involved too, holding a 33.5% stake. The fact that China is helping fund and build one of the UK's biggest energy projects has raised more than a few eyebrows. But we will get into the politics later. For now, just know that Hinkley Point C is a massive nuclear project using next-gen reactor technology, backed by international partners and built to fill the gap left by older stations shutting down across the country. It is supposed to help the UK hit its climate goals, keep the power supply steady, and avoid over-reliance on gas, especially imported gas. So, how long is it till it gets up and running? You see, Hinkley Point C was not some overnight decision. It has been dragging along for well over a decade. The idea first came up around 2010, when the UK started seriously thinking about replacing its ageing nuclear fleet. But due to policy shifts and planning reviews, it took 6 full years for anything real to happen. By 2016, EDF finally made the big investment decision and construction officially began. Back then, they said the first reactor would be ready by 2025. That's this year, but it's not even close to being complete. As of June 2025, the site is still deep in construction. Massive groundwork is done, and parts of the structure are rising, but it is far from finished. The latest estimate is 2030 for the first reactor to be operational, and that's if nothing else goes wrong. So, what caused all this delay? Let's start with the obvious. COVID-19. In 2020, construction slowed to a crawl. Lockdowns hit the workforce, reduced on-site capacity, and threw off scheduling for months. Some international suppliers could not deliver on time, and skilled labour was hard to come by. Then came inflation. By 2022 to 2023, the price of everything had gone up. That forced EDF to stretch the budget even more and adjust timelines again. A big part of the delay is the EPR reactor itself. This European pressured reactor design is extremely complex, with hundreds of thousands of parts, advanced cooling systems, reinforced shielding, and tight safety controls. It is not the kind of thing you just assemble and walk away from. Even the welding used inside the reactor has to be certified to nuclear standards, and some of it has had to be redone. That eats up time. Supply chain issues have made this worse. Many of the core components come from a small handful of manufacturers in France, Japan, and South Korea. If even one of them delivers late or sends a part that doesn't meet inspection, everything slows down. So yes, Hinkley Point C is making progress, but slowly. And for a project that was supposed to lead the UK's nuclear revival, it's been a rough start. Now, let's talk about its price tag. When this project first got the green light back in 2016, the official price tag was £18 billion. It was still a lot, but doable for something this big. As of 2025, that number has doubled. The latest estimate currently stands at over £46 billion, and the number is still climbing. That makes it not just the most expensive power station in British history, but one of the costliest infrastructure projects in all of Europe. Now, the funding model behind this thing is complicated. The entire construction cost is being paid upfront by EDF and CGN. EDF holds most of the project, but CGN still owns about a third. That foreign investment sparked concerns from day one. Critics have warned for years that letting a Chinese state company build part of the UK's nuclear infrastructure is risky, especially at a time when international tensions are rising. The UK government used to defend the partnership, but recently have been slowly distancing themselves. In 2022, the UK officially blocked CGN from future projects, but CGN is still locked into Hinkley C for now. What most people don't realise is that they are the ones who'll end up paying for all of it in the long run. The way the financing works, UK customers will cover the costs through energy bills over the next 35 years. It is called the Contract for Difference model. Basically, EDF gets a guaranteed electricity price of £92.50 per megawatt hour. which is way higher than today's average wholesale electricity price. That price looked fair in 2013, but since then, wind and solar have become much cheaper, making the deal seem overpriced in today's market. Critics say this pricing scheme means people will be overpaying for decades, just to make sure the project stays profitable. And with most household energy bills already stretched, that hasn't gone down smoothly. So, the question is it worth it then? Let's start with the obvious upsides. Once it is finally running, it will produce a steady flow of low-carbon electricity, day and night. That's important because the UK wants to hit net zero emissions by 2050. Wind and solar are great, but they are not always reliable. Nuclear fills in the gaps. It is called baseload power, and Hinkley C would be a big chunk of it. It also creates a ton of jobs. Over 22,000 people are already employed during construction, with thousands more in supply chains across the country. Once it is up and running, a few thousand permanent roles will stick around, from engineers to safety officers. But then we get to the problems, which are plenty right now. One major issue is that Hinkley C needs to suck in massive amounts of seawater to cool the reactors. They need over 130,000 litres of seawater per second. That water goes through giant tunnels and filters, but small fish and marine life get caught in the process. A lot of them die. Originally, there was supposed to be an acoustic fish deterrent system, which is basically underwater speakers that scare fish away. But EDF dropped that plan, saying it was not worth the trouble. Environmental groups were not impressed by this behaviour, and they started a legal battle. Then there is the China factor. CGN might not influence anything, but even the perception of risk has made people uneasy. The government has already decided not to let CGN into future nuclear power plant projects like Sizewell C, so Hinkley C might be the last of its kind in that sense. Hinkley Point C is the most ambitious energy project the UK has ever taken on, combining cutting-edge nuclear tech, international financing, and sky-high expectations. But it's also massively delayed, way over budget, and politically sensitive, with China still holding a significant stake. Personally, I think this project shows how critical infrastructure has become a high-stakes balancing act between energy security, environmental goals, and geopolitical pressure. It's a bold bet, but whether it pays off is still anyone's guess. What's your take? Should countries accept foreign help to secure their energy future? Or is it a risk not worth taking? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you enjoy stories like this, where engineering, politics and design collide, make sure to subscribe to Design Zip for more architecture, construction and mega projects from around the world. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.